Finn McKenty, a man who goes by many names. The punk rock MBA, clueless grifter, disingenuous poser, bold man-child. Regardless of what you may want to call him, there's no doubting his insane influence over online music discussion. Even in his retirement, he has the entire alternative music side of this platform subject to a never-ending Finn McKenty-themed yap session. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Do your own research and don't harass anybody. Over the past 7 years or so, Finn McKenty has become perhaps the biggest channel within the punk and alternative music niche on YouTube, and during his tenure has been able to commit many cardinal sins. Examples of this include describing Lords of Chaos as a good book and continuously acting as if he's smarter than any music fan or band that may disagree with him. Finn McKenty has become perhaps the most talked about individual within alternative music content at the moment after his recent hypocritical crash-out fueled departure from YouTube. If you're somehow unaware of the drama, after a few months spent away from content creation, Finn McKenty would feature on Jesse Lee's podcast, making some extremely dubious claims in regards to his departure from YouTube. Here are some of the highlights.
It's because I don't really have any interest in music. I was just doing it for the money. Yeah, I don't have any interest in music.
After hearing some of these statements, many thoughts may come to mind. Why does this man sound and dress like a pouty teenager? Why does he seemingly hate the fan base and culture that has paid his bills for years? And perhaps more importantly than both of those questions, how did Finn get away with creating inauthentic music-related content for so long? And why does this perhaps reflect a bigger issue plaguing content creation and alternative music as a whole? To preface this video, obviously I'm a YouTuber that fits into a very similar niche to Finn. I am of course subject to similar criticisms that can be pushed towards Finn McKenty. I have of course spouted idiotic opinions in the past that I now disagree with due to a larger understanding of the broader subject. Some of my earlier content can be considered low effort in a similar way to Finn's, and I of course have also presented incorrect information in the past by mistake. It's almost as if I'm a human being and not the library of f***ing Alexandria. I also have zero personal relation to Finn. Our only previous connection was him uploading a reaction to one of my videos without previously getting in touch, leading to me immediately making a joke in my next video about how Finn froths at the mouth every time he sees a video on YouTube with nu metal in the title. He never mentioned my name after this point. Before we dive a little deeper into the broader issue behind online grifting within the music scene, let's break down a few of Finn's statements and try to understand why he acted the way he did.
Is that why you started making videos, just because of all the negativity?
No, it's because I don't really have any interest in music. I was just doing it for the money and I hit my financial goals, and so there's really just no reason for me. I don't have to keep doing it.
The whole I don't and have never liked music dribble he continues to spout. We don't really need to dig too deep into Finn's psyche to realize that this comment is complete bullshit. Nobody creates a channel about music and consistently brags about having music-related tattoos without having at least a small interest in music, not to mention his years spent in legitimate hardcore scenes and history writing for smaller music publications such as Metal Sucks for what I would assume was little to no money. Finn McKenty continuously brags about his background in marketing, which suggests he has the ability to market to any individual with any interest. If this is the case, why did Finn choose to fake his personality for 30 years just to grift about music online, a topic that has notoriously low financial potential? The fact that Finn chose punk and alternative music makes it even more baffling. Let's face it, you crusty underground music fans don't like parting with your money too often. In my eyes, there's only two options here. Either Finn is incredibly bad at marketing and knows little to nothing about the financial viability of certain markets, or number two, he has always been interested in music and originally created the punk rock MBA out of a passion for both the music and the marketing behind the business. This can be backed up by his early videos that entirely focus on the more business aspects of music. This was then slowly replaced by rise and fall videos, which notoriously do very well on YouTube regardless of the niche. It seems Finn was essentially told by the mighty algorithm that rise and fall videos were the way to go, entirely ditching what he was previously passionate about and originally created the channel to do. Instead of sticking to his passion and waiting it Burnout, he continued with the deep dives and history videos, regardless of his particular interest in creating that style of content. Finn continued with this style of content for years, although the videos did slowly start to water down into a flavourless form of sludge, which is seemingly thanks to Finn's inability to ignore any form of negative attention he may receive online. The online perception of Finn slowly began to deteriorate as it became obvious the way in which he presented opinions was incredibly unhealthy and at times could be seen as egotistical. Obviously, the presentation of opinions is a huge part of any YouTube channel that discusses art as subjective as music. It's almost impossible to produce content on the topic of music without throwing in at least a few opinions. This became a problem for Finn due to the way in which he presented his opinions. He rarely presented an opinion as simply just an opinion. He presented it as a fact, and anyone that disagreed with him must have simply been wrong or knew less about the business than him, obviously due to his marketing degree. He would then proceed to yap about something that was obviously intended to piss off a particular crowd he didn't like, which all culminated in Finn getting upset after receiving criticism for that particular yap. This was clearly presented throughout various videos such as his notorious black metal and trap metal videos, both of which presented opinions as divisive as all black metal sounds the same and the idea that metal fans are racist because they don't like trap metal. This leads us to what I call the McKenty comment section cycle. Finn would often claim how he reads every comment and DM he may receive, which is essentially a mental health death wish for any YouTuber, let alone one that discusses opinions on music. You guys are f***ing ruthless. It was clear to everyone viewing Finn's videos, whether it be a fan or a hate watcher, that McKenty was willing to read through and reply negatively to many of these comments, which in real life terms is essentially akin to dangling a fishing rod into a pool of sweaty overweight piranhas that bite you with grammatically incorrect insults as opposed to teeth. This led to way more negative engagement towards Finn. He would argue with individuals in the comments, Twitter wouldn't stop shitting on him, and the vast majority of the McKenty discussion online became negative. This may seem like something entirely negative, although from a marketing perspective, there was just one big positive: the fact that the McKenty discussion was happening at all. This leads me to believe that Finn may have acted this way on purpose, or he's just stupid. It's rare that somebody who wants to sell you something actually cares about your opinions, and with Finn being the marketing genius he claims to be, an encouragement of negative engagement can quite clearly positively affect Finn's content within the algorithm, increasing his potential earnings. Although this may sound like a long shot, it could make some sense. His recent comments and attitude towards his YouTube audience suggests that he doesn't really give a f about what we or they think, and his passion towards marketing may propose the idea that Finn is willing to do anything for attention, whether that be negative attention or not. Although, what do I know? I dropped out of marketing and got a media production degree instead. I'm also not 40 years old wearing snapbacks and claim to be a marketing genius despite being unable to market what I actually enjoy to an audience, so there's that. If Finn actually was negatively affected by these comments, I can understand. It's never nice receiving negative attention for your work, but it is just a fact that it's inevitable, and the only real option is to completely ignore it or simply laugh it off. Instead of ignoring the negativity, Finn instead chose to let it affect his content heavily, attributing to the consistent watering down of the punk rock NBA.
But then, like, you would throw in some jokes and like your opinions on stuff, and it was like fun.
I stopped doing that though because it made people angry. Whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just here to give the people what they want. If they don't want my jokes, then I don't give them my jokes.
But I'm like, man, I'm so glad. Like, I don't give a fucking shit. Like, you want me to care about this shit?
By this statement, Finn doesn't mean he tailor makes his content for the fans that enjoy his personality and videos. I think it's more likely that Finn actually means he tailor makes his content for an extremely negative vocal minority within his audience. Finn's content slowly went from music marketing based videos to opinion pieces on particular styles of music to just simple band history videos with a little depth. So why is that? Did he just get lazy and complacent, or is something else going on here? I think the answer can come from how Finn appears to view his audience. He didn't appear to see his fan base as a community or a group of people. He viewed them as a customer base, and therefore a set of numbers and trends he could analyze to improve his business and potential financial gain. Upon viewing negative reactions to an opinion he made in a video, rather than simply seeing it as a negative reaction to that particular particular take or opinion, he saw it as a negative reaction to opinions in general, and in turn decided to slowly morph his channel from an interesting, although occasionally opinionated overview of music ripe with jokes, to a bland, inoffensive history lesson with zero personality, which just so happened to be a style of video he despised creating, leading to what seems to present itself on the surface as Burnout. A few months before his hiatus, Finn uploaded a few videos and streamed clips highlighting his frustration at the creative direction of his channel. He felt as if he was forced by his audience to repeatedly speak about the same bands and era of music, and any video straying away from that formula would perform terribly. It's understandable in a way. I almost fell into the same trap myself earlier this year. I began to lose interest in creating ignorant guide style videos and other 8-minute pieces of slop that presented surface level information about a particular genre or scene. Although I clearly lost interest, I felt as if I had pigeonholed myself into that formula. I was able to push myself through this and began creating videos about topics I was particularly passionate about at the time. It started with a Hunter S. Thompson documentary, which number 1 had literally nothing to do with my niche, and number 2 became one of the best performing videos on my channel and is actually one of the highest earners to date. I am obviously a lot smaller than Finn, but I believe it's hard to deny that if a piece of content is enjoyable to a large group of people, it will in turn perform well on the platform. YouTube is simply just good at showing people what they want to see. That's the purpose of the algorithm on this platform. At the moment, I'm creating videos I'm extremely passionate about, going more so into modern culture and presenting my opinions in conjunction with history and modern society. Do people disagree with me? Yes. Do I get hate comments? Of course, but you can't let that affect what you make. I've been able to build an amazing community from doing what I enjoy. Just seeing people actively chat in my Discord or occasionally being able to meet some of you guys makes all the negativity worth it and proves to me that the vocal minority shouldn't control the way in which you make content. Finn made the mistake of not only paying attention to the negativity in an unhealthy way, but letting it affect his content in an extremely toxic manner, morphing his videos from something he seemed to be passionate about to bland, inoffensive sludge that was still somehow seen as offensive by many online due to its connection with Finn McKenty. To be fair to Finn, bland, inoffensive history sludge does do amazing on this platform, and Finn has been able to build a huge audience that completely mogs mine in terms of size and view count. It is just a fact, however, that bland history lessons do not meld well with the more artistic and passionate communities such as alternative and underground music. Music as an industry is relatively unique in the fact that there is literally no money in it. Most DIY record labels fail to break even, session musicians get paid pennies despite playing on tours with literal millionaire artists, and even the most successful underground bands are often forced to work jobs on the side. This in turn means that underground and alternative music is dependent on the community it's built. The passion each and every one of us have for the bands and the scenes keeps the cogs turning. Finn didn't seem to agree with this sentiment. It's obvious upon viewing Finn's videos that he was always very business minded, with most of his views and takes being based on an idea that money and success are the most important aspects of music and a band's inherent quality. If an underground band wasn't able to make a living or sell a bunch of merch, they were a failure in the eyes of Finn McKenty, and any genre designed to be harsh and unlistenable such as black metal was actively described as a joke. Genres like black metal are of course extremely funny, but are also genres that portray one of my favourite aspects of underground music, its passionate community. Outside of all the murder, racist and saturation adjustment layers, black metal is home to a group of people that are willing to spend money and more importantly countless hours making sure their niche community stays alive. If anyone should understand this, it's Finn, as hardcore, a scene he was actively a part of, functions in a very similar way. Although hardcore kids usually leave the house and go to shows as opposed to furiously documenting abhorrent demos on Encyclopedia Metallicum, Finn was obviously knowledgeable to a degree and is probably much smarter than I am, although seems to lack the humanity that's required to understand the idea of having passion for something without financial incentive, which to be fair is pretty typical for a obsessed with marketing. So if Finn's recent comments can be so easily broken down and picked apart, with Finn essentially being slutted out for ad revenue by every slightly associated with music online, why did he make these comments in the first place? And why did he present them in such a blunt and almost comedic manner? Surely his marketing background and understanding of how punk and metal scenes typically react to poser-related statements would have allowed him to somewhat predict the negative backlash he would receive. Maybe he wanted the negative backlash. Maybe he wanted the common Finn McKenty consensus online to focus on posing and grifting as opposed exposed to something more devious and unethical. Before Finn McKenty revealed himself to be a gatekeeping, posing, mutant-type creature, there was one online criticism that seemed to reign supreme, and it mainly focused on his relationship and potential unethical aspects presented. Finn McKenty has a wife and a child, which is pretty typical for a man in his late 40s. What strays away from normality in terms of Finn's relationship, apart from the snapbacks, is the gargantuan age gap between him and his wife. According to various sources online, Finn began dating his wife when she was 18 and he was in his late 20s.
Or early to mid-30s.
With there being subtle evidence in the form of move-in dates suggesting he may have been speaking to her for a few years before she had turned 18. Moving past the hilarious fact that the biggest YouTuber covering pop punk and alternative scenes had been engaging in what can be seen as Nazi behaviour, this alleged behaviour, legal or not, is seen as grooming by many people online, including myself, and could very easily be the main reason for Finn's explosive and hypocritical departure from YouTube. I, for one, struggled to avoid seeing mention of Finn's wife and relationship when viewing any form of criticism involving him online. It became common knowledge, especially in punk scenes, even though most of punk Reddit are also nonces, and I can easily see it becoming an extremely uncomfortable accusation for Finn and his family. The blunt and almost caveman nature of Finn's recent podcast appearance could be a clever way to muddy the discussion regarding Finn moving forwards. If more people focus on his hypocrisy and insane ability to somehow be a poser and gatekeeper at the same time, maybe less people will turn their attention towards his relationship and family. And if there is one thing about punk, the posers are usually considered to be much worse than PDFophiles. Despite this being a possibility, it's hard to believe in my eyes, as these statements do seem to shoot Finn in the foot. First of all, it's just a fact that the drama slop cycle on the internet has extreme recency bias. If Finn had simply just left YouTube and remained silent, nobody would be talking about him or his family. People would forget and Finn McKenty would be lost to time, which would in turn mean people would stop criticizing him for his creepy relationship. This should be obvious to a self-proclaimed marketing expert, although Finn's marketing claims are beginning to become strange in my eyes. Through his recent comments, Finn has essentially discredited his entire career on YouTube, which at least to me seems like his greatest asset in business moving forwards. For a few years now, Finn has done consulting, charging businesses and wannabe YouTubers a ridiculous fee for what is presented as a coaching session on how to grow a YouTube channel and become financially successful. His channel is quite clearly the biggest asset promoting this, and financially speaking, it's fantastic proof on how this consulting may be beneficial, although his recent comments appear to suggest multiple things that may dampen the allure of his consultation business for many people. First of all, he's essentially proved he has an inability to market content that he actually enjoys making. Second of all, the comments prove he has an inability to evolve, change with the times, and actually focus on contemporary topics. And finally, third of all, it suggests that Finn has zero passion for YouTube and only cares about the money. If Finn doesn't give a fuck about his own channel, why should he care about yours? Knowing all this information, I'd rather receive consultation from an Indian on Fiverr than Finn McKenty. It appears to me that Finn was just simply salty. He had made a metric ton of money and wanted to sail off into the sunset, waving a big you flag to anyone that may have criticized him along the way. This whole McKenty situation does raise a bigger issue in terms of the landscape of YouTube and the relationship viewers can build with these creators. Finn McKenty presented himself in a way that was very antithetical to who he actually was and the niche he was creating videos for. He gained fans based on the assumption that he was passionate about punk rock ethics and the culture behind the music we all love, just to eventually disavow that sentiment in an attempt to clap back at what he saw as the haters. He completely severed a level of trust he had built with countless fans who had become attached to Finn due to how he presented himself through these videos. This could be the fate of quite literally any creator, including me. For all you know, I could just be the complete opposite of how I present myself in these videos, which is true. As a lack of socialization continues to become a bigger problem for today's young people, grifters will continue to take advantage of scenes, hobbies, and the concept of parasocial relationships to make financial gain. It just so happens that music, especially music that echoes DIY sentiment, is a difficult place to grift. The vast majority of Finn McKenty viewers saw through his shtick years ago, with his recent comments being little surprise to the vast majority of online music fans. The grift can still occur, however. There are plenty of punk rock themed influencers that grift the culture, but usually they're dressed in a certain way and are targeted towards younger people. For some reason, Finn McKenty thought it was a good idea to just target towards
millennials.
Although the punk rock NBA is no more, it's hard to see that as a negative. Finn clearly wasn't passionate about what he was creating, and that was being reflected in the quality of his videos. Finn is not a vital asset to this niche in the slightest. The scene is full of incredibly entertaining and genuine personalities. YouTubers like Dan Frampton, Crustbag, Wyatt X Him, Wyatt's Metal, The Metal Tempest, Dumptoes, and Cowder's Life are all able to cover music, subculture, and alternative scenes in a way that's obviously passionate and quite a bit less NPC than what Finn McKenty ended up doing. Check out all these channels that spread a little bit of fucking Christmas cheer, as I'm so negative all the fucking time on this channel. These YouTubers quite clearly are proving that the metal and underground music subsection of YouTube is an amazing place and doesn't need a 600,000 subscriber corporate shield to be considered healthy or successful.